To Industry Insights. Thanks for joining us. Today, this is Originating in the COVID Era, how top performers are finding success amidst chaos. So first and foremost, we know how valuable your time is, and we want to thank you for spending it with us. No matter what your role is in real estate right now, we can assure you this is time well spent. It is now my pleasure to introduce today's special guests, who are your panel of powerhouse top producers, originators in lending today. So first up, we have Daniel Arias. Daniel is a 15-year plus mortgage advisor who was featured as a top producer of the month in Mortgage Banker Association magazine. Daniel leads the We Fund LA team, one of the most successful branches at Finance of America, which services all of Southern California. And he also specializes in working with clients in the entertainment industry and as well as first responders. Fun fact about Daniel, during his free time, you'll catch him flying in the skies as a fixed wing and a helicopter pilot. So hello, Daniel.
Good morning, great to be with you this morning. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us. Next up, we have Freeman Sawyer. Freeman has been a leader in marketing, sales, and finance for 30 plus years. Currently, Freeman is the regional branch manager of the American Dream team at Supreme Lending. And he is also the host of Texas Top Homes, which is a radio show on 6:20 a.m. in Dallas, Texas. And fun fact about Freeman, he is currently building an outdoor adventure ranch for disabled veterans and first responders. It's amazing. I encourage everybody to check it out. If you want to see for yourself all of the amazing work that he's doing, go to heroesranch.com. It's incredible. So welcome, Freeman. And last but not least, we have our very own Kendra Rommel. Kendra is an industry professional of 24 years, ranging in experience from agency and retail origination to operations, asset management, and private money. As a member of Civic's President's Club, her personal production is exceeding 200 million in private money originations. She built the first and only team within Civic and is the host of Rommel Report, which is a podcast that highlights her personal network. She is consistently looking forward to new opportunities, and we are just lucky to have her here at Civic. Fun fact about Kendra, she is a fitness queen. She loves all things fitness, camping, dirt bike riding. So keep her on your good side because those muscles will hurt you. Welcome, Kendra.
Thanks, Gina. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So taking the mic with our panel today is our very own Bill Tessar. Bill is our president and CEO of Civic, who has over 30 years of mortgage industry experience. He previously founded and served as president at 3 mortgage companies, resulting in residential funding volume exceeding 35 billion. And most recently, he took Civic to surpass 4 billion in historic funding to date. He is our Glassdoor top CEO. He is our HousingWire Vanguard Award recipient. And as pertains to COVID, he was the first private lending executive to speak out after COVID when the airways went silent. So today he continues his value add to all of our business partners, and we are going to share his expert industry insight as well as tap into the experience and expertise of our guest panel. So without any further ado, I would love to kick things off by welcoming our president and CEO, Bill Tessar.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you, everyone, for joining. See you out there, Scotty. In the race for gray, you're winning. Hey, so Gina covered a little bit, but I've been in the space since 1985. I've been blessed to work with thousands of coworkers, both sides of the aisle on sales and operations. And as I think about originators, the 3 that we have here today are amongst the very, very tops of all of them. And if I were to start a company today, they would be three of my very first calls I would make. I feel blessed that we have them here. I think everyone's going to learn a little something, and thank you all three for taking the time. Aside from being great producers, it was touched a little upon that these three also give back to their communities and in different ways. When I think about Kendra, she started a platform for other small businesses so they could be heard on social media, and she's been doing incredible things through the pandemic in that platform, edifying those businesses. I think about Daniel, he's 12 years as a reserve sheriff. That hasn't been getting a whole lot of positive attention when you are getting paid. Much more difficult to think about when you're not getting paid, and he's out there putting his life on the line to protect and serve all of us. So thank you for that, Daniel. And Gina talked a little bit about Freeman with the Heroes Ranch. And what's neat about that is that was a dream of Freeman's for over 10 years, one that was communicated to me quite regularly, and he never lost sight of it. He bought the ranch. He's personally funded the development of that by stocking the lake and deer and making it handicap access for first responders and those who have served. And he's doing some incredible things. So really, aside from just being great producers, they're great people and they give back. And I don't think we should have this next 45 minutes without acknowledging that. So before I get too mushy, which I was starting to get, I wanted to start a little bit with volume, because it seems like that's the first thing people talk about. Like, oh, what's their volume? That makes them a top producer. And maybe one easy barometer that you guys are using, or an attribute that's helped separate you from the pack. And if you don't mind, Kendra, I'd like to start with you.
Monthly or annual?
Your choice.
Well, so production, like anybody, even though we've stayed moving, I would say we've definitely felt the effects as a team and individually of the pivot. So my production for this month, personal production, is probably around 4.7, and my team's production around 8. Just in transparency and honesty, obviously last year I closed out the year independently at just over 75 mil.
Yeah, it's a good point though. So for clarity of everyone on this call, Freeman and Daniel represent the conventional side of lending, and Kendra's representing the institutional private money. And on Kendra, what I would say is there was a real 4-month pause in Wall Street where a number of the lenders stopped lending permanently, some stopped lending temporarily, and then others like us made some nuanceable changes to our guidelines to keep lending uninterrupted, but differently. And so I think it's a testament to you, Kendra, and your team to have been able to kind of march through those 4 or 5 months of chaos, getting you to where you are today. So compliments. Daniel, monthly volume, tell me what you have leaned on as a key attribute.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's start off by saying that the conventional mortgage industry will have a record year this year. And comparing today's production to previous years, we've essentially doubled our funding numbers. So my personal production will end up somewhere around 150 million for the year. And I run a team that collectively will do about 300 million this year.
Well, so Daniel does bring up a good point about production. It just was reported that on the conventional side, past 4 trillion. The previous record historically on the conventional side was 3.7 leading into the mortgage crisis. And so we've passed that by 300 million with a quarter to go. And yeah, it's been a wild ride and lots of fruit, right, to be picked in that space. So thank you for sharing that. Free, key attribute and volume.
Key attribute, I think I'm a great partner with my business model. Volume wise, we do about 30 million a month. About 75% of that conventional, and the rest of it being government, FHA, and VA. Very little jumbo in our world.
So Daniel mentioned a little bit about the refi boom and how that's kind of shook all of us on the conventional side with what our normal modus operandi was. You're heavy into new construction. Has that impeded that at all?
New constructions in Texas has been booming. Our builders actually setting records. They're actually raising prices every week right now just to slow down the volume. So typically November and December, we're actually getting ready for our home builder to deliver a couple hundred specs that they have ready to go and kind of close out the year with big numbers. This year, all those specs are already sold. So everything that we're working right now is to be built. Houses that are going to go under construction and take a 6, 9, 12 month, depending on weather.
Just for edification purposes for everyone on this call, we all get together the night before just to make sure that everyone understands kind of ground rules and balance and things that we're going to cover. And one of the things that struck me is like, my guess is that most people on this call are hard workers. Like we would say, we're hard workers. We wake up early, we think about our business, we apply those things, we go to bed late at night thinking about our business, and we come back the next day and do the same. What struck me about the three of these individuals that we're talking to is that they're smart workers as well. They all go bell to bell. They always have since I've known them. Focused on the key elements of the tasks of the day, but they're really, really smart. Like they really make the minutes matter. And there'll be some takeaways as we go throughout this discussion. But think about it in those terms. Everyone can work hard, but I think working smart is a differentiator. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on the pandemic. I think we're probably up to our earlobes in talking about it. And Gina, thank you for mentioning having clothes on during the meeting. We've had a couple instances in the past where people forgot how comfortable they were in their underwear in their kitchen, and so they're walking around. We're like, how do we turn the camera off? Quick! Tell Joey he's on live with 200 people. But that aside, being able to work in the pajamas and underwears in the kitchen, there's a shift, right? There's been a shift in all of our business. Pandemic hits and contact with people stops, and the way that we think about business and do business changes. Daniel, you first. Talk a little bit about at what point of the pandemic did you realize there was going to be a shift, and how you thought about your business when that happened?
Yeah, I mean, for us in the conventional space, we really have centered our business model around strong real relationships. We're a purchase-focused team. We're in the streets with our realtor partners, visiting their open houses, their caravans. And for us, I'll never forget, Wednesday, March 15th, we were all told, hey, we're basically shutting down. Everybody go home and take their laptops with them. And so we realized early on we had to create a platform to stay connected some way, somehow with our business partners and our clients. And so we created something similar to this call, which we called the We Fund LA Community Roundtable. And it was attended by a couple hundred people every week. So we were doing them every single Tuesday at 10 a.m. And I think people were starved for information. There was a lot of uncertainty going on, and people just wanted information. So we were featuring national authors. We had medical professionals. We had some mortgage professionals. We had you also. Bill Tessar was one of our guest speakers. And it was an opportunity for us to remain connected with our people, be it through a virtual platform. But we realized early on we needed to do something to remain in front of our people and continue serving them in a meaningful way.
Thank you. Free?
Well, I think, as soon as we heard it, immediately I knew we had to do something. I had flashbacks to 2008 on things I couldn't control. So I wanted to focus on the things I could control. One of the things that we have built here in Texas is a program called Texas Top Producers, which is basically the top realtors in the Metroplex that have all opted in to help First Texas sell houses. So we had an audience, and we were able to take model home videos and actually build an online tour process, not only for the sales agents at the models to use or the community sales managers, but actually started doing daily trainings to the realtors on how they could use that tool to do online training, show the houses without having to go meet the people while everybody was still in that media frenzy of being scared. And, are the models going to be open? They're not going to be open. So anyway, we had all that content already. So taking it live was fairly fast for us. But I believe we have the largest model home tour video probably in America right now. We got something like 200 models on there.
Wow. I saw the party you threw for all the realtors. It was when you first came up with that idea years ago, I thought it was just a way for you to mingle and drink. Then I realized you were actually doing business development.
I did mingle and drink a little at those parties, I will tell you.
You did. Kendra, you remember the moment?
Yeah. Well, I remember the moment that I heard about it and I thought it was a joke. I think I even posted something on social media about 2 Corona bottles. And I was like, yeah, while the world is scared, we're lowering rates. And then literally you announced that we were removing everybody from the office and going remote. And I thought, wow, that was bad time. So then after I recalibrated and realized that it might be a real thing, I just took a moment to hear your perspective as our leader. And then my immediate knee jerk was to focus on my team. Tiny, but still nonetheless, I wanted to see what the temperament and the emotion was amongst our team. And then similar to you with us. And then from there, I spread that same empathy and compassion out to my clients or my partners, who some were falling on some really, really scary times with margin calls, et cetera. So it was really a movement of compassion more than it was about business for me immediately. So I would tell you, I don't have some cool story about how I instantly pivoted and tried to figure out the next opportunity. I had a level of concern about my friends, AKA competitors in the space that I knew just got, shocked because they hadn't been through even a 2008 crisis. So to feel something so drastic as having, people tell you they're not going to buy your paper overnight, paper instantly devalued for all intents purposes, was a scary thing for some people who had never faced something like that. So being in a position to supply capital, at least that wasn't my initial play. My initial play was just being a friend and a resource if I could, internal and external.
Yeah, I don't know how many people on this call went through '08, but just from a very high level perspective, we were looking at the bid screens of mortgage bonds, and almost like someone who lost their life on the table, there was no bids. There was just a straight line of no activity. So you could not trade the paper you were originating. And the stuff that was getting traded at a discount. And that time frame, the financial crisis, lasted years. It wasn't a couple months and then everyone reset. People came in and out of the market in small bits, but the collateral damage was years. In this particular time, it hit the conventional and the private money space radically hard the first 2 to 3 weeks with hedging positions and margin calls. And then, as Kendra pointed out, just some undercapitalized private money lenders getting caught, right, with too much on their line and nowhere to sell it. It recovered remarkably well, especially in the conventional side, like overnight with Fed help. And then on our side, really over the next few months. But it allowed people to do what Kendra's talking about, which is to focus on the people and people's health and not necessarily the loan trade. So look, it happened. We all got shook. It transitioned. I want to start with you, Freeman. Just a couple things. What's changed with the way that you're serving your clientele now that we're 6 to 8 months into this thing and the rules of the land have kind of been established?
Well, I think first and foremost, right, we're all operationally centric. But in any given day, I've got 3 customers that I report to, right? So I've got the home builder as 1, I have the realtor that's involved in the transaction as 2, and then you have the customer buying the house that's 3. And operationally, we were pretty stout and it was fairly automated process, right? And now it's not, right? Now there's a lot of hand-holding that goes on. So I think communicating and being that good, what I call the good tour guide, which is telling people what's going to happen. Everybody tells the customer what's going to happen, but are you telling your referral partner what's going to happen? Why does funding take a little longer? Because warehouse lines are verifying employment, right? Forbearance and essential people get treated different, right? Because everybody's scared to fund a deal that might go immediately into forbearance. So all of those things slow down. Appraisals slow down, right? People didn't want appraisers in their house, right? New construction, it really didn't matter. But my realtor stuff, people wanted the house clean. They wanted footies, they wanted gloves, they wanted all that sort of stuff. So communicating all those little nuances and being a good tour guide of the process to all 3 partners or all 3 customers, I think was super important operationally.
Kendra, 2 items.
So say it again. What 2 items?
That's changed about the way that you're serving your clientele.
I feel like I've always done, that's one of my stronger suits. I feel like I've always serviced my clients well. So 2 things I would say: I lead with how they are personally doing, more so than just diving into business. So more so than I would have ever taken the time in the past, to be honest. And I mean, really, I haven't changed a lot of who I am. So I would just say I actively try to be a better listener and a better friend to my partners, a resource. I don't know. I keep repeating myself, but really, I think that was a massive shift for me. I feel like I slowed down a lot and stopped worrying so much about the hamster wheel of the transaction and more about the people that I'm choosing to do business with at this point.
Yeah, one interesting thing I'd share about Kendra is we actually started really in the front end of the pandemic, some personal one-on-ones that took place every 2 weeks. And it was amazing for me to watch her. It's still amazing for me to watch her focus really on tomorrow. She's not a person that lives in the past, and she really doesn't spend too much time in the present. It's always about figuring out angles and ways to better serve her client. And I see that from the front row every other Wednesday morning at 6:30. We'll invite everyone on for the next 6:30.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Hey, so Daniel, I know you leaned heavily on tech. Talk to us about that and how that changed for you.
Logistically and operationally, we have been hyper-focused on creating a modernized digital mortgage experience, as we're now forced to do things, remotely. Having a proprietary mortgage origination platform that really streamlines the process for the consumer, I think has really given us a competitive advantage during this time. So that's one. And I think the other one is COVID took us out of our comfort zone. We weren't really big on digital media and video content, and we knew instantly that we were going to have to do more of that. So we doubled down on our marketing efforts and have started doing stuff that we're not necessarily comfortable with, but we feel like we're making an impact with our consumers that are following us via social media or reading our mortgage minutes. Similar to Kendra's Rommel report, we do a mortgage minute once a month that we distribute out to our realtor partners. So definitely has forced us to get out of our comfort zone.
Yeah, I think my truth, if I was messing around a little bit, and I had to be careful because I didn't want people to take this the wrong way, but I always am a half full type of guy. So I try to find the benefit in every crappy event. And so I was starting to make a list of the things I loved about COVID. Well, I got to have more personal time with my wife. I got to spend more time with my children. We got to make more dinners than go out. I read more than I ever have. I drove less than I ever have. And I think about our business, the one thing that I will take out of this pandemic and probably keep moving forward is the way that we communicate with one another with Zoom, GoToMeetings, and Teams. Like how often and how well you could connect to someone when you can see them and see the tonation and inflection and how they're feeling, and not just guess at what they were saying over the phone or through an email. I will tell you at Civic, we use Teams, and I'm on Teams no less than 50 times a day. No less than 50 times a day. And I could promise you, I did not have 50 one-on-ones a day, but now I'm connecting in a way that I never have before. So it's not just our coworkers, it could be our referral sources, our vendors, competitors, right? These types of situations. So that is like, if you're trying to pull blessings out of a really crappy situation, I think that's a big one. So Free, this is a blast from the past. I'm going to go into swipe and adopt for a second, and I'm using something I actually took from you over 10 years ago. And my big swipe and adopt is how frequent and how you will communicate with the borrower. So something Freeman taught me long ago is early on in a relationship or a transaction, depending on how you approach your business, you ask that potential relationship or transaction 2 questions. How do you want to be communicated with? Do you like email? Would you like me to pick up the phone? Is text better? How often would you like me to communicate? Do you want weekly status reports? Do you want milestone reports? Do you want me to call you every day and tell you nothing has changed? Or do you just want me to call you and tell you when docs are ready? I think if anybody here in this group took anything away from this entire discussion, if you just owned how you communicate and how often you communicate based on what your relationship is looking for and not what's easiest for you, that's step one to having a customer for life. So with Swipe and Adopt, you remember that, Freed?
I do. I still preach that. Good stuff.
Yeah, incredible. And thank you for that. So I just shared mine. Each one of you get to share a Swipe and Adopt, something that's changed the way that you've done business. And this doesn't have to be pandemic related. I think it should be just professional related. Kendra, I'm starting with you.
Well, first, I would say that I think it's important for us to swipe and adopt on a regular basis, not wait for a pandemic. So to your point, I try to swipe and adopt consistently, whether that's quarterly, annually, definitely in each business model, because I feel like that's the only way we can grow is by taking perspective from others. So that kind of leads into my first one. I'm big on mentorship or coaching. I have taken that very serious actually in the last 12, 24 months. You know that because I've asked you to chat with me every week. And then also I would say, I'm going to piggyback kind of what Daniel said in terms of social media and kind of getting in outside of your comfort zone. I did not want to be a girl with a selfie stick talking about mortgage. I thought that was the most intoxicating thing ever. So it was the Rommel Report that was born, and it was about elevating others, which is kind of like the third point that was probably my largest swipe and adopt, in that I took time to slow down, really try to elevate my partnerships. And in turn, it's kind of elevated all of us. It's something that I thought I always lived by. It's something that I truly am actively working at every single day, and now in front of the social media platforms.
Thank you. Freed, what about you?
I don't know if it's a swipe and adopt as much as getting back to the basic fundamentals. So I was looking at a lot of fee sheets that we were competing against, and I kind of noticed my team had gotten to a rut or maybe a bad habit of not asking for points on a transaction. So when you go to looking at Chase and Wells and B of A, you look at their rates, they're all charging points, right? So I kind of got my guys back to asking for points, which has really helped our volume and helped our gross.
Yeah, the old 3 options has always worked too, right? So back in the olden days, and I think it probably still works that way on the conventional side or on the private money side, a little bit different, but you do the no points or the no point, no fee, the no point, the 1 point, and then they get to pick. You're not selling anything, right? Or 0 points, 1 point, 2 point, whatever it might be. But
yeah, we're raving fans of Mortgage Coach, so we like to put it out there. And I really believe in the In-N-Out Burger menu, right? Sometimes, when you go to lunch, right, you're not picking what you want, you're picking what you don't want. And so I think doing a mortgage making the decision simple ties right into that. Show me a couple options I may pass on, right? Because then that helps me land on the other one.
Good. Daniel, what swipe and adopt action?
Yeah, I mean, I, along with my team, we invested in personal coaching to ensure that our mindset remains in a place of strength and abundance. With the high volume comes high stress. And I think how you handle the stress will separate the leaders. And so remaining with a strong mindset was something really important for us. And we really, reconciling the good, the bad, that was around us, these record high volume numbers with, all of the tough conversations that we were having with some clients that, were coming to us because they were in trouble or couldn't make a mortgage payment. Reconciling all of that was a challenge. And so I think for us, we went outside and hired some leadership coaches to come and give us some advice on how to always have that mindset of abundance. Like you said, always look for the opportunity, even if you're dealt, a shitty set of cards. So that's one thing we changed.
So team, I have 2 final questions before we go to Q&A, just being mindful of the calendar and everybody's busy schedules. And so Daniel, since I just finished with you, I want to stay with you. Looking past the pandemic, going into 2021, what does it look like for you and your team? Approach, forecast, channel changes, anything you can share with us?
Yeah, 2020 is going to go down as a record year for the retail mortgage industry. But looking ahead, we're going to remain hyper-focused on our key relationships with our realtor partners. We're going to remain capitally invested in our business and double down on our marketing strategies that will be really centered around letting both the consumer, our clients, and the realtor partner know that we care about them beyond their needs for a mortgage advisor. I think now is an opportunity to let people know that you don't want to just be their loan officer. You want to be their advisor, whether they've got a real estate question, a question about estate planning. You want to be that resource for them that they go to. And so we're just going to remain focused on, the purchase business, our realtors, our clients, and making sure that our marketing strategy moving forward, lets people know that we care.
Yeah, Daniel mentioned records, but it has been funny throughout the year. We talk quite a bit, and month end and early on, it was like, how was your month? And surprisingly, in the pandemic, we broke a record. I said, good for you, Daniel. Congratulations. Congratulate the team. Great team. Good effort. Good for you. And the next month he's like, would you believe we broke the record? I said, oh, hey, good for you, Daniel. That's great. And then it got to like, all right, what record did you break? It was long hours, but congrats on that, Daniel. Freeman, 2021 as you see it.
Yeah, I think, obviously we're getting refi business that we normally wouldn't get, but as we're refinancing these people and also the new loans that you're putting out there on purchases, I believe you're giving people the loan of a lifetime. So I'm not sure that we're going to refinance the Jones file 5 times now. I think that customer is going to stay on that loan for a while. So we're going to work on new business development, purchase-centric business development, and open up some more realtor relationships and work towards that.
So I have been wrong by only 14 months of this refi boom being over. We called the winter of death going into the winter of 2020. And then refis continued and rates continued to drop, and we're close to zero right now. So agreeing with Freeman, I don't believe there's a lot of room on the bottom. And if you go look at all the economic competing factors there, it feels like flat or up. So I think it's a great approach, Freeman, as you think about 2021 and on to establish the new relationship with your new referral sources. What about you, Kendra, around the corner with 2021?
Well, first, I want to say congrats to Daniel and Freeman. Honestly, it's so fun when loans are falling from the sky. So enjoy it. We've all been part of that. At least I have been part of that. I know Bill has too. So it's fun. Just lay there and soak it all up, because I do agree with Freeman. I think, you typically see a loan turnover in 3 to 5 years. And I mean, people that are looking to turn that 2 3/4 or 2.5 rate over have got problems, and you probably don't want that loan. So congrats to you guys. I think it's awesome. Going into 2021, I'm just going to stay consistent. I'm extremely optimistic. The elections have our market share, I think, a little more apprehensive for the time being. So I'm just trying to recalibrate and, like I said, hone in, dial in those relationships, consistently look for B2B opportunities versus transactional opportunities, and help my team scale up. So pretty simple, but that's really what it's about. Just trying to lead and help my immediate team members be the best version of themselves.
Thank you. Last question before we go to Q&A. Leave everyone with one piece of advice. Newer originators, mid-size originators, actually experienced originators that you'd want them to take away. And I'm going to start with you, Kendra.
Oh, this one's hard because I would just say focus on the relationship always versus the transaction. Don't worry about the size of the transaction. Focus on who you're speaking to, and wake up like you're broke every dang day.
I like that. Daniel.
This one's easy for me. I borrowed a couple of these, and a couple of these I came up with on my own. But for me, it's 3 things. Master your trade, be obsessive about everything you do, and always originate with a little bit of fear.
I like that. Free.
Yeah, I think we all have the fear factor going on, right? That this could change. So Kendra, point taken. They're not going to keep falling from the sky. But on that note, Bill, I'm a Jocko fan, so I think you kind of got to go Jocko a little bit moving forward, and that's get outside your comfort box and try some new things. If we were in war, where I'm going to grab every gun in the box and just start shooting, And I think marketing and origination is that same way. I want to try some stuff that's uniquely different, some stuff that takes me out of my comfort zone, takes my team out of their comfort zone, and let's see if we can master something and have some success with it.
Just off of Jocko for a second. So I've given the books to my kids and they've read them backwards and forwards. And my youngest out in North Carolina, when there's Jocko has a saying, right? When and he was in war, he was in many wars actually. And when it got really bad, when the chips were down and bullets were flying and it didn't look very well, he would look at his partners, he'd go, good, this is an opportunity for things to get better. So no matter how bad things got, my kids now are like, good, I got a 65 on my college test, good, next time I'm gonna get better than a D. Not a lot of those. But so yeah, I'm with you on that. Here's mine. And you touched upon it a little bit, Kendra, and it's probably easier to listen to than to apply. But I didn't come from much growing up, so I was motivated to make money. I looked at originations as a means to do that. The more people I talked to, the more originations I would get, the more dollars that would go into my pocket, and that was my motivation at the front part of my career. Humongous seismic change in my life came when I no longer looked at those opportunities as transactions, and I really were looking at those opportunities as part of my lifelong relationship. And so when you can do that, and you know, listen, we all have bills to pay, and we all have goals that we want to hit, and vacations we want to go to, and family members we want to help, and we want to zock some money away, and we want to invest, and that takes deals. And so you can't just say, well, I'm not going to focus on making money. I get it. But I swear to God, or anybody, or anything that anyone prays to, if you focus on the relationship 100%, you do the right thing by the person, you do the right thing by the situation, the money will 100% come. It's not a transactional business unless you plan on getting out of it. It is a relational business. And it's just it's more than a mindset. It is a commitment that you wake up to and you go to bed to every day and can never be compromised. You will always do the right thing for the person on the other end of the phone or other side of the desk if it's a relationship. And you'll never be compromised if you simply looked at it as a transaction. So Gina, Q&A, it is 9:44. We have a little bit of time.
Okay, so perfect. So I have a couple questions that came offline. Our chat feature is not active. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do is to raise your hand if you have a question. So if you click on participants at the bottom of your chat panel, of your Zoom panel, and the participants panel will appear. And then you should be able to scroll to the very bottom and see a little icon to raise your hand. So while I go into some questions that I have, I will encourage anybody who has a question to go ahead and do that. One of the first questions, Bill, is, has the pandemic created opportunities that you didn't see or use before?
Is that one for me?
Yes.
Well, because our space is the institutional private money, it absolutely did. And if any of you have listened to me in the past, it exposed, maybe the word posers are probably a little strong on my behalf, but if you're in the business of selling money, then you should have it, or you don't really sell it. And when you don't have it, you can't really be called one that sells it. And I think what happened in the pandemic, it exposed people that were very thinly capitalized, that through marketing efforts represented themselves to potentially be something that they weren't. And it created opportunity at Civic for us to earn market share in those areas that those people no longer lent in. So I think, that was number one. And maybe to Kendra's point in looking out for others, it was an opportunity for me to connect with competitors, at a very high level, to help structure some alternative financing vehicles for them so that they weren't part of yesterday's news. And so I think there was an opportunity then. And then I think there was an opportunity for Civic, which was a relatively young company, been around 6 years, to be tested. Like I say internally, we were really good at celebrating shit, like really good. We celebrated stuff better than anyone. New record, new this, new milestone, new accolade, but we'd never really been tested, like really tested. And so part of me, there was a fear factor in me knowing how we would respond to that. And being able to have 80% of 300 employees work from home uninterrupted, and to continue lending and to find new ways to serve our clientele probably has made me more proud than anything else.
Excellent. I am going to go to Todd Kaplan, who has a question. So Todd.
Absolutely, yeah. Question for the whole panel. With everything going on right now, and it's two-part, what keeps you up at night, and what are you most excited about?
Daniel, start.
I mean, I think for me, growing a team has now made me aware of, essentially being responsible for feeding, I don't know how many mouths, with, if you take children and stepchildren into account. Now for me, personal production isn't the focus anymore. Now it's about trying to bring up as many people up with you in this journey that you're on. And so that comes with a lot of responsibility. And so I wake up every day making sure that Holly and all of my team can put food on the table. And so that keeps me up at night, making sure that I'm being the best leader that I can, so that everybody has, what they need to provide for their families and continue thriving in this market.
How about you, Free?
What keeps me up at night is when rates go up, and they're going to go up where it's going to plateau out. I think of that all the time right now.
Free, you have so much reference to look at to know what happens.
So, and trying to get my marketing game to the point to where it's not going to affect me, where I'm going to be in front of it. I've been in front of a lot of things throughout this. I had actually been working on a Heroes program, not a ranch, but actually a Heroes program for loans and selling houses. So it was very beneficial that just so that it happened, all essential employees were all heroes as well. So if we were just going to focus on one book of business, we could focus on the heroes, and everybody was going to be fine. My builder could sell stuff, my realtors could sell stuff, and we could do loans. But coming up with that next thing ahead of the pandemic or whatever's coming next, that's what keeps me up.
So I know I'm on the other side of the aisle in terms of lending, but I spent 30 years on your side of the conventional, and I have a bit of advice for all you conventional lenders on this call. Lock everything and lock them longer than you think you need to. Every loan you originate, lock it. And if you think it's 30, lock it 45. You think it's 45, lock it 60. Do not float anything. No matter what your really super smart branch manager's telling you that he got off the MBS report or anything else, lock everything and lock it longer. Kendra, what do you got?
I mean, I think that Daniel and I are at similar places in our career, obviously different spaces within the industry, but I would echo what he stated in that my team keeps me up at night. I want to be the best that I can be for them. So I have a lot of shortcomings evenings where I'm thinking about ways I could have been better, done better, and will do better. And then what gets me up is just the competitive spirit, I think, to consistently want to be on top of the leaderboard, both personally and as a team. I mean, that's just my vein side. I want to be the best. I want us to be the best.
Yeah, Todd, I think what keeps me up at night is that in my professional career, I've never, ever been in a moment of time that has had so much divide politically, social unrest, the pandemic, people's well-being, both financially and health-wise. And we have 300 people at Civic, and my responsibility is to lead not most of them, but all of them. And everyone is affected differently by that. That is a very, 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 very delicate walk. And so that definitely keeps me up at night. And then the opportunity is to, and I think it was you, Kendra, that said it in the very beginning, but when you come out the tail end of something that we've all just gone through, and if you have all your limbs and all your mental capacities to continue to perform, it can be the most beautiful sunshiny day for a long, long time. So I do see us coming through this. I see us coming through this with all the baloney that's going on in the world, and start like really kind of marching more as one, maybe not lockstep day one, but at least directionally correct. And I just think there's an awful lot of lending opportunities in the future that, makes my heart pitter patter for sure.
Okay, excellent. We are going to go to a question from Brian Fung. So Brian, I have gone ahead and...
Can you hear me, Gina?
Yes, sir.
So I hear a lot about in personal development, people having coaches. And so I'm curious as to how you guys find your coaches, how you define them, as well as mentors, and what it looks like in terms of how often you're meeting with them, how you filter through good information versus bad information, because there's so much out there.
Can I take this one really quick? I have an interesting story about my coach. I actually never really believed in coaching. I said, if I reached this level of production without a coach, I don't need a coach, right? But I quickly realized that, Michael Jordan had a coach and Kobe Bryant had a coach, and even some of the most successful sports athletes had coaches. And so I was lucky enough to meet my coach by way of a friend of mine. It was my friend's girlfriend. And, I got to know her on a personal level, and just everything she would say, the way she would just approach life. She was like a Bill Tessar. Her glass was always half full. And I approached her. She never said, "Hey, I'd love to coach you. You're a successful mortgage professional. I'd love to, coach you." I approached her and I said, I need you in my life, and I need you in my team's life. And, got to know her obviously on a personal level. And, I meet with her weekly. And she meets with my team as well. And so it's been great. Again, coming from somebody who thought didn't need any coaching to now, I don't know how I ever did it without coaching.
That's awesome. Thank you, Daniel. Did any, Kendra or Freeman, did you want to add anything before we jump to the next question?
I would say coaching for me, Brian, was extremely challenging. I hated the notion of a coach, similar to Daniel. And I think there's a lot of phonies out there. So I just, like, I'm looking for loans or business opportunities. I just saw people sitting in seats that I wanted to be in, not necessarily by way of title, just by lifestyle or character or just different things. I mean, I approached Bill in just a side conversation about chatting with me one-off. So it's because of who he is and how he conducts himself, both personally and professionally. And so I would say to you, just look at the people that you want to be around consistently. I mean, I think there's a saying, something along the lines of, you sit with the people you want to be. You don't sit with, if you've outgrown the room, you need to look for a new room. So just consistently look, just like you would for your business clients. They don't have to have the title. They just need to emulate what it is you want in life, and seek advice from them, seek counsel. They may tell you no, but
coaches can take different forms too.
Right.
Freeman's been a coach to me. I've gone to Freeman with business challenges, and Freeman's been a coach to me, even though we work at different companies. And Bill has certainly been a coach to me. Scott Houlihan on the call has been a coach to me. So I think coaching can take different forms. And there's been coaches, throughout my career, looking back, and maybe I didn't look at them as coaches at the time, but looking back, absolutely, they were there. Some of my biggest cheerleaders trying to get me to the next level.
I think it's a good point, Daniel. I don't believe coaching is a hierarchy thing. Brian Fung asked a question, but Brian, you coached me in a personal experience that you didn't even know about, just talking to me about some changes you and your wife, just recently married, have done in the way that when you guys come home, TV time and personal time, and what you guys do together to balance load, wasted moments. And so, I've been with my gal almost 3 decades, and we got pretty good rhythm to our game. But, I listened to what you had to say, and look, you've been in the business for 2.5 days, and I've been in it for, 3.5 decades. How could I possibly learn anything from you? But I do. And I think that's the important part here. You don't even have to pay for someone that appears to be above whatever your pay grade is or experience level. I think you just got to use the senses God gave you. Scotty used to say it best, right? Scotty Houlihan, he said, God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth, and he wants me to use them proportionately. And I think that's kind of like how everyone should approach every day. And if you do that, then you're getting coached from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, and probably while you sleep.
Awesome. We have a lot of questions coming in. So next up, I'm going to turn to Nicholas.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So with the massive amount of refinances that are going on right now, I think that it's important to focus on new business, like you mentioned earlier. So what are some tricks or some strategies that you implement to build new business with real estate agents or architects, CPAs, people outside of the industry?
And just to jump in real quick, because we have this limited time, I'm going to have one of the panelists answer, and then we'll have one of you answer the next question.
Any of you could jump in.
I'll take that one. I think when you start looking at outside the industry for ways to get good referral partners, right, is you got to figure out how to pre-qualify those, right? If you were to just take an architect, right, what sort of business do they have? And then in my world, right, I want to help my realtors sell houses. I want to help my builders sell homes. I want to help my CPAs get new customers. So it's got to be a two-way street, right? If we just sit there and raise our hand, could you send me the Jones file? Could you send me a deal? It's really not a good partnership. So I think first and foremost, maybe you got to look at yourself a little bit and say, how can I help them too? And ask those questions, right? Hey, how can I help you? How can I help you get more of your own customers? What sort of book do you have to offer? What sort of assets do you have to offer? It's got to be a two-way street or it just doesn't work.
Good answer.
Okay, great. Thank you for the question, Nicholas. Next up, we are going to go to Dana.
Good morning, everybody. So my question is, how do you mentally and physically handle the stress at the pace that you all are operating under?
Kendra, that's a good one for you, because you have a very good physical balance to your work schedule. So why don't you share?
I put everything on calendar, and I create those verbal expectations with my internal and external clients. I will not answer my phone on Sunday. Things as simple as that, right? I will not typically answer my phone unless BT is calling me or WIT is calling me before, let's say, 6:30, because that is time that I spend in the gym, and I'm not willing to compromise that time for myself. So I think without creating balance for me to feel healthy, first and foremost, like physically and mentally healthy, I wouldn't be able to manage the stress. And my kids would argue that I don't manage the stress well.
I find that hard to believe, but thank you, Kendra, and thank you for the question, Dana. Next up, we are going to go to Jacqueline.
Hey, everyone. So my question was for everyone. What tool or application do you use now to grow your business that you wish you would have had when you started?
Daniel, you want to start?
What tool or application? I don't know. I've never been a shiny object guy. I know the company has invested, millions of dollars in giving us a bunch of shiny objects, but for me, I've always been a relationship guy. So we've put all of our dollars and marketing budget into marketing strategies that help us connect with people. So I just think for us, it's always been about strong marketing strategies. But
Free?
I think there's a lot of technology out there that will allow you to record your conversations. And I think that is very critical in getting yourself better faster. When you can listen to one of your calls with a customer after the fact, it really helps you with the next series of customers moving forward, just in minor corrections that you can make.
Kendra, anything?
I'll just tell you, Jacqueline, you're such a process-oriented girl. I don't think that there's anything that cookie cutter in terms of sales. I will tell you, Total Expert is damn near one of the coolest tools I wish I would have had when I started Origination. I think we're pretty set up with that if we're utilizing it to its maximum capacity.
Okay, I know it's 10 o'clock. I'm going to go for one more question we have from Colin, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, hello. So I was just wondering, with everyone now competing for customers' mental space using digital tools like Zoom and podcasting, how are you staying relevant and in front of your competitors?
I'll start. Digitally, I like to edify others. Never really like to talk about what's happening with Bill or what Bill's done, but it's really the celebration of other people's success. I think that isn't just strategic, it's genuine. And I think you can connect with people better when you pat somebody else on the back as opposed to yourself. And that is, I would say that if you talk to Gina or Liz in our company, they would tell you that that is 100% a driving force, at least out of my mouth, the way that I think about digitally. I wouldn't personally spend a lot of time on it if I wasn't celebrating other people.
Yeah, Colin, it's a tricky balance. I mean, the frequency of whether it's the Rommel report, the Mortgage Minute, or this call is a really good example, right? I think you've got to dial it in so that you don't overwhelm your audience with too many calls, too many emails. Figure out, what the reception is like, and just, go off of that, because it is a tricky balance. There's just a lot of people who are not doing it right, and it's like, okay, unfollow or stop going to that Zoom call because it's in your face all the time. And to piggyback on Bill's point, success sounds sweeter when spoken through the lips of another, and Bill's master of doing that. He's always bringing people on and promoting basically everybody but Civic and but himself, even though they're a leader in their space as well.
Fareed, what do you got on that?
I think I'm uniquely a little different because, like I said, I got 3 customers. I focus on my most important customer every day, which is my home builder, and keeping that relationship tight. And they're not super digitally techie, so I have to be their techie for them. So I try to help them look better.
That's great. Kendra?
I mean, I think I echo your sentiment clearly by my Rommel report. I want to kind of reverse a question to you though, Bill, in that same thought to take it a little further. You don't want to just promote people to promote people, right? So you want to promote people and have people say, well, if Bill's recommending this person or this business, I want to utilize them, right? Or I want to contact them, or maybe I should contact them for something. So where and how do you choose the businesses that you want to spotlight?
Yeah, I have 3.5 decades of reference, Kendra. So that makes a difference. Like, I know, we joked about the poser thing, but I have a really good bullshit meter that kind of sifts through that stuff. And, I go with my sixth sense a lot of times. I mean, if you go back and look at every post I've ever done, and I do from time to time to see if there's been any misses, I stand behind every single post I've ever done because it was right for me at that time based on the information that I had. And I don't post a lot, but when I post, even, like on Instagram, like I don't think I've ever posted a personal Facebook. First, I don't know how to. And then second, the business stuff is done through our marketing. But on Instagram, even if you went to my Instagram account, every single Instagram I've ever posted has been celebrating something that happened to somebody in my family or some special thing that I was proud of. It's not, and so again, it's not by design, it's just genuine. And you and I joked about it. You will never catch me posting, "Hi, Bill Tessar here, eating a pickle sandwich outside of In-N-Out, and I just want everyone to know how happy I am, and my life is kicking ass, and I feel great about it." Never happened. But if Freeman won a pickle eating contest at Burger King, and I thought that was super cool, and he did it on behalf of the Heroes Ranch, I'm gonna celebrate that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I just think that's important, and I would tell you that that's the one thing that's worked for me is just being authentic to who I am and elevating people that I truly feel are good characters and as such run great businesses. So Colin, that would be my own response.
Yeah, most of us on this call are closer to the end than the beginning. So make the moments matter. Like, why would you ever do anything to compromise your legacy? Words matter. Like, make them matter. Seriously. I didn't say that when I was 27, kicking ass and taking names and doing a whole bunch of loans, but I am telling anyone that's willing to listen that it does make a difference. So, you know, put a little investment behind that.
And I will say, just from having gone through this event with all of you, that is a very strong common denominator that all four of you have. And so I love that we can end on that note. With that said, we're 6 minutes over, so we're going to wrap. Bill, did you want to say any last words?
No, just really thank you for tuning in, and to Kendra and Daniel and three super, super close friends and business partners that I have here at Civic and in my past lives, and care and love all you guys very much. Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you,
having us.
everybody, so much for joining. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah.